You're listening to the Toolstation Western League podcast with Ian Knockholds and Tom Hiscott.
Welcome, listeners, to the Toolstation Western League podcast with me, Ian Knockholds, and I'm delighted to be joined on the line by Tom Hiscott, the author of the Western League Bulletin. Hello, Tom. How are you?
Yeah, a little bit tired, but yeah, good to speak to you again.
Well, of course, it was your cup final last night, wasn't it? Or should I say your Super Bowl? Did you actually manage to stay awake for the entire game?
Yeah, we went out with a couple of friends and watched it at a bar in town in Bath. So yeah, I say it, man. That helped me stay awake, but nearly managed to fall asleep whilst there. But yeah, I did manage to stick up till about 3ish.
Wow.
Yeah. And then the alarm at 6:15, which wasn't particularly pleasant, but you know, it's one off once a year, so that's what's done is done. But yeah, it was I would say it was worth it. It was a really good game, so enjoyable.
Because am I right in thinking that it all sort of swung in the last 10 minutes? I mean, that's the sort of drama that only seasoned Western League watchers normally expect from their sport.
Yeah, very late, frantic finish. It was, lots going on, and the team. I think my memory is awful, but I think I backed them last week. I think I said the Chiefs would win, and they were for the third consecutive playoff match for them. They were double-digit deficit, and they managed to come back and win. So yeah, it was a pretty entertaining finish.
Excellent stuff. Now, listeners, just in case you think you've tuned in to the Super Bowl podcast, you haven't. But of course, regular listeners will know that Tom is something of an authority on the old pigskin classic. So we always like to get his take on that sort of thing. But I can assure you, for the rest of this podcast, we will be getting Tom's take on matters to do with the Toolstation Western League. On episode 24, we will be bringing you interviews with Neil Kirkpatrick, the joint manager, of course, of Westbury, and Eamon Daly, who is manager at Portishead, of course, of the First Division. But we will kick off by looking at the fixtures that have just gone in the week. And we will start by not looking at Saturday the 1st of February. We will go back to last month because we're going to kick off with a little bit of Friday night football. It was Friday the 31st of January. It was Bridgewater Town against Clevedon Town. We talked about it on last week's podcast. We thought that there would be a bit of a derby feel to this game. Of course, two sides separated by not a great deal in the table and not a great deal geographically either. There was a huge crowd here, Tom, and they had 6 goals to enjoy.
Yeah, this sounds like almost a great advert for the Western League, isn't it? 288 there on Friday night, as you say. Two teams not separated by a huge distance and not much in the table as well. And that was played out a thoroughly entertaining 3-3 draw. Both teams taking leads at different times and the other managing to come back. So it was a bit of a topsy-turvy affair. Clevedon making the fast start. 13 minutes in, they went ahead through Jacksdale. But then Bridgewater managed to get back on level terms 20 minutes later or so through Jack Taylor. Taylor then put Bridgewater ahead in the opening stages of the second half to make it 2-1. But then Sid Camper managed to grab Clevedon second of the night with a penalty to make it 2-2. But then Bridgewater responded and they managed to go back in front. Tom Ellis scoring back 20 minutes from time, but then less than a minute later, so Clevedon weren't behind for long, and they managed to draw level once more. Ethan Felton doing well to finish, and he made it 3-3, and that was how it stayed. So good night for all, I think, at Fairfax Park on Friday night.
And then we move on to February the 1st, and we're going to kick things off with another very well-attended match, a 3-figure attendance between Buckland Athletic and Bitton. And, it was a Rolls-Royce Silver Ghost display by the Bristol side.
Yeah, and as opposed to the Friday night game where both sets of fans would have gone home a little bit happy. I don't think Buckland followers will be particularly happy with how Saturday afternoon panned out. A 6-1 win for Bitton away from home. It took him a little bit of time to get going. Joe McLennan putting them ahead after half an hour. But then right at the end of the first half, they managed to really turn on the style. Karen Rendell scoring in the 43rd minute. And then Scott Bryce managed to find time in stoppage time for a third to make it 3-0 at the break. Put Bitton in a extremely strong position, of course. Matt Groves then continued their dominance soon after the break to make it 4-0 before Ryan Bush did manage to pull a goal back for Buckland. But that was as good as it got for them, unfortunately, and Bitton managed to push on in the final 20 odd minutes and added a couple more. It was Bryce again. So the skipper having a good afternoon. Then second half sub, Josh Brace, he added the sixth, and that was one of Bitton's better performances of the season, I think.
And what a time to get it. We're going to be talking a little bit about that later in the podcast, but Bitton hitting some very impressive form, quite possibly just at the right time this season. Now, another side doing very, very well away from home was Westbury United. Unfortunately for them, not quite as many people in attendance at this game as in that last game between Buckland and Bitton. But yes, Westbury visited Cadbury Heath and another emphatic away victory.
Yeah, 4-1 win away at Cadbury Heath, nothing to be sniffed at, but it was quite similar to Bitton's in a way. It took them a little bit of time to get going, but then 15 minutes at the end of the first half really turned the game in their favour big time. Callum Demkiv striking twice at the back end of the first half, either side of a goal from Joe Stradling. So 3 goals in the space of 13 minutes, as I say, just before half time, giving Westbury, just like Bitton earlier, a 3-0 half-time lead, with Ryan Bowl then making it 4-0 from close range early in the second half, before the Heath managed to get a late consolation through substitute Lewis Saunders. But fantastic afternoon for Westbury on their travels.
Well, that impressive away victory for Westbury United was all the encouragement that I needed to get in touch with an old friend of the podcast. Of course, it is the joint manager of Westbury United, Neil Kirkpatrick. Given the scoreline, I started off by asking Neil whether in his perspective the performance was as comprehensive as that final score suggested.
Yes, I think it was. I think particularly the first half we really dominated it. It was quite a strong wind going down the slope at Cadbury, which we had at our backs, so that was obviously helped, but we did take control really from the first whistle and really dominated it. And took our chances as well. And then obviously second half it was a little bit harder, but again we scored the 4th goal, so I was really disappointed we conceded late on, really, because it would have been nice to have had a clean sheet as well, but we'd have all taken 4-1 at 3 o'clock, so delighted.
Now, you've had an interesting start to the new year. You've had wins against Odd Down and Wellington and, of course, Cadbury Heath, but also defeats to the likes of Bitton, Tavistock, Parkway, and, of course, that game on Boxing Day against Bradford. Now, I'm sure you'd have liked to get some more points on the board at this stage, but to be fair, those matches, it feels to me like they've gone with the form book. Is that a fair analysis of the situation?
In terms of league positions, I suppose you would say yes, but in terms of the performances, we could have quite easily, they could have been drawn games rather than defeats quite easily, really. You look back, what ifs and maybes. The Bradford game was just 2 set pieces. Parkway, we had could have been given the last kick of the game was over the line that their keepers clawed back. Bitton, again, disappointing the 2 goals we gave them. We certainly didn't deserve to win the game, but had it been 1-1, I don't think Bitton would have probably argued too much. We'll take the positives. Really good performances against the top sides. Yes, frustrating we haven't picked up points, but we know we're not far away, and if we keep putting that in, week out, results will come.
Because I think from our conversations last season, you obviously had an incredible start to last season. You had a pretty good finish as well, all told. Currently you're 11th in the table. Do you think that we've seen sort of an ironing out, a settling really of where Westbury are sitting in the sort of the Western League Premier Division hierarchy?
Possibly, but again, I think you could say, did we overachieve last season? No, probably not. We got what we deserved. This season, it's been really inconsistencies of selection and availability that's hampered us. If you look at, Boxing Day we played Bradford, 2 days later against Parkway, we had 8 of the starting 11 missing with injuries and what have you. So then from the Parkway game to Wellington a week later, we had to make 7 changes. Then from Wellington to Oddane, it was 6 changes. So it's been a real problem, which, we are gradually getting the walking wounded back. We will, all being well, have really good competition in the squad now, which can only be a good thing.
Now, you've got Chipping Sodbury up next, and then you're away to Exmouth, and that's going to be a really tough test for you.
Yeah, very tough game. I know, I would have said it was a 3-horse race for the title, although they've had a couple of tough results in the last couple of games. But they'll still have a big say in it, and they're a very, very good side. They don't concede many, that's for sure. Apart from obviously Saturday was probably the first time they've conceded for a while. But we look forward to going down there and making it a tough afternoon for them, hopefully.
Well, those are the next games up for you. But of course, if we look ahead to March, you're going to have a pretty challenging March as well. Shepton Mallet, Parkway again, Buckland and Bridgewater. When we think about the quality in the Western League this season, do you think it's getting harder year on year?
Certainly, I think it's been tougher this year on last year. I think we probably spoke before about some of the levels of investment that's going on in the league. But, we'll look forward to March. It's great. Shepton, they gave us a hiding at our place. Probably one of only 2 games all season I feel we haven't really turned up in. So we'll look to put that right. Bridgewater at home, we lost 2-1 and their keeper was unbelievable that night. So it's all about on the day with us. If we compete, as I keep saying, we're as good as anybody on our day. But it is, it's all about consistency, and that's what we haven't had this season. And that's shown in the results in our league position as well.
I mean, the other thing we should say about those trips in March is that most of them are away. And, of course, with the likes of Parkway and Buckland, I mean, Buckland, of course, have been in the league for a while, but increasingly teams from Devon coming in. Those away day trips are, they're making the Western League at the Premier Division level more challenging than it's probably been in your time involved in the league.
I wouldn't say it's too bad. Obviously, Parkway's midweek, which isn't ideal, but now we know about it. We've got plenty of notice. We'll hopefully be able to go down there with a competitive side. Buckland, we played away first game of the season, so the Buckland one is at home. If it's a Saturday, no problem. It's all part of it, and you enjoy those away games. In the Devon clubs are always strong sides, always well organised, but it's nice games to go and win.
And my thanks to Neil for his time. Now then, we move on for our next featured game in the Premier Division to look at 2 sides who have had very contrasting seasons so far. Plymouth Parkway were at home. We all know how good they are. And again, what's perhaps more impressive is the size of their home support. 208 people watched this game at Parkway. The visitors were Wellington. Victories for the Somerset side have been in short supply this season. So really, this game was only ever going to go one way. Or was it, Tom?
It was extremely tight, and it did eventually pan out as people would have expected. Parkway taking home the 3 points, but they had to battle seriously hard to make that happen. Wellington, to their credit, obviously down in 20th spot. Probably no one, particularly gave them much of a chance of getting anything from this game, but they came within 6 minutes. Then unfortunately the deadlock was finally broken in the final, as I say, final couple of moments there. Adam Carter, obviously our leading scorer in the Premier Division this season, he managed to poke the ball home 6 minutes from time to give Parkway a 1-0 win. So another 3 points, important 3 points for them, and Wellington unfortunately beaten at the death.
But certainly a result I imagine that they can take a great deal of positives from going forward. No mean feat at all to hold that Parkway side. I mean, I saw the quality of the lineup. I mean, that was a very good Parkway team. So all credit where it's due there. And our final game in the Premier Division, Roman Glass St George, they took on Exmouth Town. Another 5-goal thriller. We've had goals this week, Tom. Who went home happy?
in the end, it was Roman Glass and George. But no, you wouldn't have guessed it. For much of the first half, Exmouth absolutely storming out the blocks. They've had we know that Exmouth are on an extremely strong run of form, and after just 45 seconds, Aaron Denny had put them ahead at Oaklands Park, giving them almost a perfect start to the afternoon, you'd say. And then Jordan Harris, their top scorer, doubled the tally less than 10 minutes later. So Exmouth building a pretty easy early 2-0 lead, and looking on track for another 3 points. But Roman Glass and George had other ideas, having had a lot of away games recently. A good return to home comforts for them. Ash McGrain and Sam Wentnam both scoring during the second half of the first half to make it 2-2. And then it was Steve Fitzpatrick completing the turnaround early in the second half, making it 3-2. And that was how it stayed. Exmouth had an opportunity from the spot during the second half, but that was to come to nothing. And it was Roman Glass and George pulling off a thrilling comeback, a 3-2 victory over Exmouth.
If you're thinking, Toolstation, I know they'll save me money, but do they have all the top brands? You know, DeWalt, Makita, Einhell, Stanley, Myra, Kudox, Nest and Santex. Yeah, they do. Over 15,000 trade quality products in the range from the leading brands with prices that are hard to beat. If you want a helping hand to save on your next job, try Toolstation. With over 300 branches, there's always a Toolstation near you.
Now we move on to matters of the First Division, and we kick off with Almondsbury at home to Ashton and Backwell United.
Yeah, Ashton and Backwell, I think going under the radar a little bit. They've now won 6 from 7 in the league. That's a fantastic run of form from Ashton. And a 1-0 win away at Almondsbury, giving them their latest 3 points. And the only goal in this game came just after half-time, and that was Harry Walker. He managed to get the ball in the back of the net. And Ashton very much keeping in touch with the top four as things as it happens at the moment.
6 from 7 there, Tom. It's only Devizes have taken points off them in that run.
There we go.
The mighty Devizes. Come on, the Town. Right then. Anyway, and from one town to another there. Portishead Town, they were away at Bishop Sutton, and they took all 3 points, Tom.
They did eventually, yeah. It was another late goal which decided this one. Portishead did go ahead at Bishop's at Lakeview, and that was Callum Eastwood making it 1-0 after just 15 minutes. But Bishop Sutton, made a really strong start to the second half. Callum Baker scoring pretty much from the restart after the interval, that was how it stayed for much of the second half. But Portishead, a much needed win for them. Pushes them away from the strugglers at the bottom. Really, it builds a nice gap for them. And it was James Clark managed to get his head on a cross from Mitch Osmond, and that nestled in the back of the net. And Portishead running out 2-1 winners at Lakeview.
Very early in the season, we spoke to the new Portishead manager, Eamon Daly, and he was very much looking forward to life in the Toolstation Western League First Division. So I thought that on the occasion of that good away win at a struggling Bishop Sutton side, it would be fair to say it was still a good opportunity to get back in touch with Eamon. So given that his side had played now half the season, I asked him what he made of life in the First Division.
Yeah, it's been a up and down season so far. We started quite solidly. Of course, from the last time we spoke, I talked about how we were bringing quite a few young players through into the team this year, and a new squad put together. And it's a learning curve. It's a learning curve for them every game. They're learning something else, and they're getting better and better. I think the key throughout the season really is consistency. We had a few difficult months in October and November, pretty much from injuries, a few suspensions, and it kind of interrupted our flow a little bit. What we were trying to do, we kind of dipped off a little bit in form. We had a few cruel defeats, suffering a few last minute defeats. I think 3 in the space of 4 weeks, where we conceded goals in injury time, which cost us matches, which was hard to take. But credit to the lads, they've shown great character in responding to those setbacks. and very proud of them. So the season so far, we probably would have hoped we were a little bit higher, but at the same time we're improving, and we've made improvements throughout the season. So I'm relatively happy with them. Yeah.
I know that obviously you've just talked about consistency, but I know that from our previous conversation, stability was an important point, because obviously there's been quite a high turnover of players in the last couple of seasons at Portishead. So, I mean, do you feel that you've made progress on developing that sort of more settled side?
Definitely. Retention of players is difficult. We changed the ethos this season by bringing in our own players, local players, and trying to get them to sort of buy into the identity of the club, and a bit of ownership for the badge and the team they play for, which has paid dividends. We're a lot more settled in terms of the squad, in terms of the club throughout the sides, from the fourth team upwards, and from the under 18s. We've, in the last 6 weeks or so, we actually train. We incorporate the under 18s into our training as well, bringing them in for maybe half an hour and sometimes the full session, and showing them the pathway. And that's all building towards the future. It's a work in progress. Dan Halstead, who runs the under 18s, assisted by Paul Wood, they're doing a fantastic job with those young lads, and we'll benefit from that. And we work very closely together. We're feeding them through into adult football now, and they're all playing. Not all of them. They'll all come in at the right sort of times, and we have a look at them and bringing them into the levels that we think that they all benefit from and they can develop. And a couple of them also coming through into the first team already. So I mean, that's happening quicker than what we probably envisaged. But stability is the key really for the future plans of Portishead, and hopefully we'll reap the benefits of what's going on behind the scenes at the moment.
Now you're 14th in the league at the moment. Are you looking up or down when it comes to the rest of the season?
Well, you've got to look up. You've got to look up and not be naive enough not to have a look over your shoulder as well. I did say about how October and November were quite difficult months for us due to a few defeats that happened late on. But also spoke about the response from the players. They're showing great character, great resilience, which we might not have shown earlier on in the season in games. And if you take a look at our results, when we have been beaten, it's been by the odd goal. I think our goal difference is +1, and we've lost 11 matches as opposed to winning 7, I think. So we're very competitive. We've been competitive against the teams up around the top, which shows that we are making strides in the right direction. I mean, we play some good sides, and we're getting that blend of experience and youth. We can't do it all with youngsters, and we've got a nice little blend now with some experienced players in there, and I think we're getting the balance right. Probably epitomised really by our draw with Wales in January. A very good side. We went a goal down. No, sorry, we had a man sent off. We went down to 10 men, and they scored shortly after. And maybe in previous seasons, or maybe earlier on in the season, that would have been the catalyst to losing by 3 or 4, maybe. But the boys dug in, and we got a real creditable draw out of that game, which really was, a fantastic point against a very, very good side who's really going to be up there. I'd say top 3 by the end of the season, no doubt. We rode our luck early on in that game against Wales, but to come away with a point after 3 previous defeats by the odd goal, I think we might have lost 2-0 to Corsham actually. But that point really was another turning point. I wouldn't say a turning point, but it's a realisation that these boys can compete against a very good side in this division. And we've had a couple of wins since then as well. So we're looking up. I mean, we still have aspirations to finish as high as we can, possibly top half. I mean, that's what we're looking at, top half before the end of the season, hopefully. Yeah.
Well, you've talked about that impressive result against Wells, and of course you had a very impressive result against Hengrove as well. But the Saturday's game was against Bishop Sutton. That was another win away from home. So you must have been very pleased with that performance.
Yeah, very pleased. We were solid Saturday. We went out going into the game saying, these are the must-win games for us. I mean, Bishop Sutton, they're not having the best of seasons. So they are the games you eye to picking up 3 points. And we were very good. We started off well. We had a couple of chances early on, and then we scored, I think, maybe around the quarter of an hour mark, 20-minute mark. And we were very comfortable at half-time. Bishop Sutton come out second half, credit to them, and they come out all guns blazing. They probably had right act read to them at half-time. And they responded within a minute of the second half, and you think, right, here we go again. We've got to dig in and get something out of it. But, we did. We played some nice football on what are heavy pitches at the moment, and yeah, we got I think a justified 3 points in that game. Yeah.
Now, we've obviously just talked about that result against Wells, and it's one of the funny things that the fixture list throws up, because you've got them again this weekend. It's at their place this time, so if I offered you a point now, would you take it?
I'll always go out to try and get 3 points, Ian, I've got to be honest. But, I think if any team looking at Wells this season would be happy with a point away from home. They are a very good side. I mean, don't know if you've seen them this season, Ian, but I'm sure you've talked to them and talked to people that about that club. But they're very strong, very well organised themselves. And Carn are two very good teams. But we'll go there. We'll go there full of confidence after another win on the road. We'll bring the game to them and hopefully come away with something.
Well, because after Wells, you've got Carn and then the small matter of Radstock Town. So the fixture list it's not doing you many favours at the moment, is it?
Well, they come thick and fast, don't they? We do look at the fixture list and we look at where we can pick up points and everything else. But like I say, we are competitive this year. We went away to Carn a few weeks ago again, and that was after the Wells game. And we really took the game to Carn in the first half, especially the first 15 minutes. We should have been 1-up. We missed a glorious chance, and 3 or 4 corners and free kicks around their box. We had them pinned back. But Carn, being the solid side that they are, rode the storm and come out in the last half an hour of the first half. I mean, they really put it to us, and they went in at half-time 2-0 up. And again, it's one of those where you're playing a top side and you could lie down and lick your wounds and come off with a heavier defeat. And the second half, again, the boys dug in and we got a goal back, and we were very unlucky not to come away with a point, to be honest. I mean, their keeper pulled off a fantastic save in the dying minutes, and it's why Carn are at the top, though. They'll even when they're up against it, they'll dig out results, and this is what you get from the top teams. But we took a lot of optimism from that game as well, despite coming away with nothing. But so looking at these games coming up, Wells, Carn again, and Radstock, 3 very difficult games against sides that are probably going to finish in the top 6. But yeah, we're confident. We're confident in our own ability. We're improving. These boys are building character now, especially the young lads. I spoke to them midway through the season and kind of try to instill in them that they got to take some ownership and culpability of their own performances. The team's got to work in together, but they look after themselves and give the best that they've got in them, and the rest will come. And they've really responded well. I'm very proud of all the young lads that have come through. We're confident that we can give these sides a good game.
I mean, one final thought. We've talked about the players, of course, and how they've developed under your leadership. Let's also have a think about the fans, because those games against Carn and Radstock, they're both at Bristol Road, and really there'll be great advertisements for Western League football. 2 of the top sides coming down. I know you're dead set on giving them both a really good game of football, but it would be great if the local fans could get behind you as well.
Absolutely. I mean, some of the sides in this league, they have a great following, and we're obviously trying to raise the profile of Portishead and trying to get as many people down there as much as possible. There are signs that more people are coming to the games, and people talk to me about it afterwards and this and that about the football, and we get some praise, we get some stick as well. It is about raising the profile of Portishead and trying to get more people down there, and hopefully, bringing entertaining top sides like Colne and Radstock will only help towards that. I'm sure they'll bring their good following that they've got as well, and hopefully should make for a decent encounter in both those games.
Eamon, thank you very much indeed for taking the time to speak to us. It's been great to have a chat with you this season, and we continue to sort of watch your progress with interest.
Thanks, Ian. One last thing. Can I just mention, there's a young lad who comes with us every week, Jack Pooley, his name is. He does our match reports. A fantastic young man who gets them all done, gets them online with Greg, who's our media guy. Now, Jack, it was his last game last Saturday with us at Bishop Sutton, because the young man's he's got himself a job with Fulham. So it's a credit to him, and we wish him all the best in his new venture. He's a great young man, so hopefully he'll have a great future in his journalism.
That's a wonderful way to finish there, Eamon, because, of course, we've been running a campaign to sort of promote the volunteers across the Western League, and we have to remember that not all volunteers necessarily are involved with either the first team or grounds maintenance or the hospitality that goes on, and it's wonderful to see. We all hope that our clubs get the Tyrone Mings, the next Ashley Barnes, that player who can go on to play in the Premier League. But the opportunity for people who are involved in Western League football to progress up the pyramid in any capacity is one that we really should celebrate. So I'm really pleased that you've been able to highlight that. I think that's it's a wonderful story, and hopefully there's going to be plenty more Jacks out there going up the football pyramid and continuing their journey from the Western League.
And my thanks to Eamon for his time. Now, from the Bishops of Sutton to the Bishops of Lydiard, another side I think you'll agree with me, Tom, have been in very, very good form of late, and that continued against another side that fancies themselves this season, Corsham Town. Yeah,
indeed. Bishops Lydiard having a little bit more luck at the moment than the Bishops Sutton. And, an excellent start to the year for them continued. A 2-0 win over Corsham. Obviously, Corsham doing pretty well in the top 6 or 7. Came unstuck on Saturday against Lydiard, who ran out 2-0 victors. Mark Clooney setting the ball rolling after just 29 minutes, putting them on track for a 10th win of the campaign, and that was what happened. Charlie Wilson applying pressure on the Corsham keeper, who made a bit of a mistake, the ball rebounding back off Wilson and going into the back of the net to put Lydiard 2-0 ahead. Luke Bryant did have the opportunity to make it 3 with a penalty. 15 minutes from time, but Corsham managed the keeper managed to keep that one out. So it remained 2-0, but another good win for Bishops Lydiard.
Our final game in the First Division, we started this week's edition of the podcast with a 6-goal thriller, and we'll finish this edition of the podcast on a 6-goal thriller. Another 3-figure attendance. 107 people watched this game in the First Division. There can only be one club that can command that sort of attendance. It is, of course, the Maltmen, Warminster Town. The visitors were high-flying Wells City. How did this one pan out, Tom?
The spoils were shared. It was another 3-3 draw, as you say. As we started the roundup, we will end it as well. A 3-3 draw there between Warminster and Wells. Biggest crowd of the day in the First Division, and it was Wells who had a good start to this one. Harry Foster obviously having an excellent season for the away side, and he managed to score after just 7 minutes. But Warminster rebounded really well, and they managed to turn the game on its head and take a 2-1 lead to the interval. 2 goals from Francois Allen, putting them ahead in this one, and that soon became 3-1. The hosts striking early again in the second half, giving Wells a tough task during the second half, but they managed to just about pull it off. Foster trimming the deficit with his second of the afternoon, adding to his ever increasing goal tally for the season. And then with 20 minutes left on the clock, it was Harvey Hadrill doing really well in the build-up, setting the ball off for Dale Hunt, who hammered the ball home and made it 3-3. And that was how it stayed. So I think a pretty good away point for Wells at Warminster.
Excellent stuff. Well, that concludes our look back at the games that have been. So we'll have a look at the games that are coming up. Now, before we go to Saturday, the 8th of February, we've got a huge amount of football to discuss, by the way, on Saturday, the 8th of February. I know we don't normally sort of have too much of a look midweek, because obviously most of these games will have happened by the time you listen to the podcast. Certainly the Radstock Bishops Lydiard game would catch my eye, but that will have taken place. I suppose two games that really are worth mentioning are the Les Phillips Cup games. We've got on Tuesday the second round game between Cribs and Cheddar, and then on the same day, and this just tells us all, listeners, about the fixture disruption we've all been experiencing in the Western League this season. It's the quarter-final fixture between Bridgewater Town and Exmouth Town. So there you go, two Les Phillips Cup matches in very, very different rounds taking place on Tuesday the 4th of February. And there's nothing to say. That's to say nothing about the fact that the small matter of Plymouth Parkway taking on Plymouth Argyle in the Devon St Luke's Bowl quarter-final game. But anyway, all of that pales into insignificance when we talk about the FA Vars fifth round ties. And of course, we've still got 3 member sides in this competition, very much in healthy positions, all of which are at home. Tom, can you take us through those fifth round matches on Saturday?
Absolutely, the Vars is back. Exciting times, and as you say, 3 home games as well, which is I think a fantastic draw for our sides, and they're all in good form, aren't they? So you've got Bitton. Their first up, they take on Sutton Common Rovers of the Combined Counties League. And all these are 3 o'clock kickoffs on Saturday afternoon. So if you haven't got a game with your club, I think these teams will definitely enjoy your attendance if possible. So we've got Bitton versus Sutton Common Rovers. We've then got Bradford Town, obviously top of the Premier Division at the moment. They take on Leighton Town, and that is also at home. And then finally down at Beliefo Park, we've got Plymouth Parkway. And they're taking on West Auckland Town, who have to come all the way down from County Durham. That is a heck of a trek for them. So fair play to anyone who follows the away side down to that one. So hopefully, good support for the home team might be that 12th man. You never know. So Plymouth Parkway taking on West Auckland Town. 3 I think winnable ties on paper. So big good luck to those 3 teams on Saturday afternoon.
Yes, that West Auckland journey down to Plymouth Parkway will see their supporters going 380 miles in one direction. That is not what a band they were, by the way. That's not the round trip. 380 miles. That's the best part of 800 miles in one day, if they do indeed go back. Why not see the sights of Plymouth? Well, maybe they'll be drowning their sorrows.
Fingers crossed.
I'm sure the Parkway hopes so, but really the very best of luck. Fingers crossed for all of our sides. And I think this was a feature when we featured these fixtures, when we previewed these fixtures last time on the podcast. Bitton of Bristol, Bradford of Wiltshire, Plymouth of course, Devon. I hope all of those counties, with all of their sides, get behind our representatives still left in that competition. Let's put rivalries aside. Wouldn't it be wonderful to see all of those sides progress into the next round of that competition? So hopefully we can all get behind them, and we will, of course, be bringing you the results of those games and the draw on next week's podcast. Now, we turn our attention to the Premier Division, those games taking place on Saturday, the 8th of February. Tom, and what game has caught your eye here?
I think when we decide these between us, I think I stole in ahead of you a little bit on this one, and grabbed it before you could. I think we got Hallen versus Exmouth. Some of the sides obviously in action in the FA Vars. I think these are the next best teams. Best tie to look forward to on Saturday. We've got Hallen up in 4th and Exmouth in 5th. Hallen having won 6 in a row in the league, and Exmouth having won 6 of 8. So both banging form. Obviously Exmouth maybe smarting a little bit after their defeat to Redmond Glass on the weekend. So it should be a terrific tie there.
Well, I'm going to look towards the other end of the Premier Division. Cadbury Heath against Keynsham Town. Now, we heard, of course, about how Cadbury Heath fell at the weekend at home to Westbury. They've got an opportunity to put matters right against near neighbours, Keynsham Town. And I think that game, I'm sure, will have a derby feel to it and will be very, very entertaining. Both sides, of course, very much looking for the points out of that fixture. Now, we then move into the First Division. And which game has caught your eye here, Tom?
Gone for Radstock versus Calm. So we've got 6th place Radstock taking on the league leaders. Radstock pretty tough to beat at home. Had a look back over their games at home this season, and they've not lost too many. So a tough afternoon for Calm, who've built a nice little margin at the top of the table. So they can pick up another 3 points on Saturday, that will go some way towards making them potential title favourites. So a big afternoon for those two sides.
I'm almost tempted to sort of not bother giving another one, because that would definitely have been my game. And listeners, I mean, if you are looking for a game to go to outside of those FA Vars encounters, then that certainly would be my pick. Both sides winning at the weekend, both teams going in good form in that game. I'm going to give an honourable mention to Oldland Abertonians against Warminster Town. Again, two sides that have proved on their day this season they really can turn it on, but both sides have really suffered from inconsistency. They've just not turned up enough. Now, of course, both sides do turn up on Saturday. This will be an absolute humdinger. So that would be my game to watch in the First Division at the weekend. That nearly concludes our good work for another episode of the Toolstation Western League podcast. We did the league tables on last week's edition, so we will move on to the hot shots in the Toolstation Western League. So, Tom, can you take us through who is hot in our hot shots top list?
Absolutely. So, looking at league goals alone in the Premier Division, Adam Carter still leading the way, adding to his tally pretty much every week, it feels like. He's got 27 league goals for Parkway so far this term. You've then got Jack Fillingham, who's nestled a few in the recently. He's got 20 for Shepton Mallet. And then Jordan Harris of Exmouth, he's crept up a little bit. He's on 18. In the First Division, we've got Harry Foster now leading the way, the Wales marksman with 21 league goals. James Rustle of Radstock, he's still on 18. And then Stuart Windsor of Calm, obviously recently went past his century mark for the club. He's got 17 league goals so far this season. And then in all competitions, it's still Jack Krager. He, bit of a, not a cup specialist, but he's got plenty of cup goals this season. He's now on 32 in all competitions, so fantastic season for him. Foster of Wales on 28 in all comps. You've then got Carter and Fillingham on 27 and 25 respectively. So those three. Chasing Crago, who's got 32 so far for Tavistock.
The golden boot of Jack Crago.
Absolutely.
There we are. What a way to finish this week's podcast. Tom, thank you very, very much for your time. We have, of course, been reviewing your excellent bulletin, just in case there is a person on this planet, or indeed any other, who doesn't know where to find it. Can you tell us?
I can do my best. It's on the Toolstation Western League website. There is a tab along the top, which takes you to the most recent one where you can download it as a PDF or a Word document, and that should be out early Sunday morning after the games have taken place. So looking back and looking forward. So that should be out every week.
Excellent. Tom, thank you very, very much for your time. And of course, you've really earned your money today, because we not only did we get a Toolstation Western League podcast out of you, we also did get your thoughts on the Super Bowl. That's excellent. I, of course, didn't have to work that hard, listeners, but I've enjoyed your company greatly, and I look forward to welcoming you back on next week's Toolstation Western League podcast.